Hello, and welcome to the 11th episode of Shopify Kryptonite by Woolman. My name is Teemu Tolonen, and I have my great colleague Mikko Rekola again here in the 11th episode. Welcome, Mikko.
Thank you. Good to be back.
And today we're going to be talking about brick-and-mortar, how you should transform your brick-and-mortar store to an online business. I have plenty of ideas myself, but Mikko, where should we start the conversation?
Well, it's something that comes to my mind that is like Shopify an option for that, and that's the question we've received like past weeks more and more. So businesses that have had like lots of physical locations or haven't thought about e-commerce, or they've had some sort of like presence online, but they barely have sold anything online. So how to get started? If you're like just like thinking about the idea, is now a good time to act? Should you act already during the summer, or should you wait? And how do you like to get going with the whole idea?
I think that I'm not biased when I say that Shopify is a perfect option for most of the brick and mortar stores. And in my head, the whole brick and mortar and online concept of combining these two, I would basically start the kind of setting up things from the inventory. So making sure that you have a system that if you sell online and you sell the same warehouse, the same goods from your store, you need to keep track of your inventory. And as simple as it sounds, it can be surprisingly difficult if you have a system B or system C as the online platform, and then you have some kind of point of sale system, which is a system that's coming from the 90s or the 80s, which we've seen quite a lot. And especially in many of the cases, the customers, the brick and mortar, the store owners, they don't need to have a complicated point of sale system. They need to have a system where they can catch the customer and then maybe have inventory. So thinking about the inventory, how you can combine the inventory that you have in the brick and mortar location to the inventory that you're going to sell online. And as it turns out, the really easy and quick solution would be absolutely Shopify point of sale. So it's basically a mobile app, an iPad application. So when you set up a Shopify online store, you just plug in the Shopify point of sale as a sales channel. You install the application on your iPad, and that's basically it. All the product information, all the inventories will then be submitted from the Shopify online backend to the Shopify point of sale system. And then it doesn't matter if your customers are coming to the brick and mortar, you're going to be selling the exact same goods and the exact same inventory that you're going to be having available online. I think that would be absolutely kind of from this system point of view and also from the business point of view, the key point where I would start myself, because it sounds simple as it is, but I've seen so many complicated versions of the whole setup that it's usually, in most cases, unnecessary. Don't overcomplicate things that can be done in a simple way.
Right, sounds perfect. And if I would have a like actual case example, I would have a business selling fashion goods. I would own my own warehouse. So what kind of time frame do I need for this project? So if we are now talking about the start, we are talking about like quarters, half a year, a few months. Yeah. What's the time frame?
That's again a really good question, and I would basically identify 3 things that you need to have in order to sell online or to transform the brick and mortar business to a online business. And you basically need to have the inventory thing set up that we just covered. You need to be able to ship the goods. You need to be able to take payments in the online system. And then the fourth thing, there's actually 4 things. The fourth thing is that you need to do the product information. So if you've been selling only in the brick and mortar store, I'm guessing that you don't have these nice product descriptions and the nice product pictures. You probably have the prices, you probably have the inventories. So the most time consuming part in the setting up the online business will be to gather the product information, and all the rest will be rather simple. It's kind of easy tasks. Payment providers are integrated. We have options for shipping, and how do you handle the shipments, how you print the packing labels. Those can be all done with Shopify applications. But the product information itself, that's going to be the part where, depending if you need to hustle at the shop at the same time when you're typing in the information, it's going to take you a bit more. Or then if you can have a trainee or another employee handling your shop and you can focus on the product information. And usually in these cases, I would say that you can do it in a week, but that would be kind of over optimistic. So anything from 3 weeks to 5 weeks would be most likely kind of on the scope pretty easily, and then you won't be kind of hurrying in the project.
Right. And then actually you were talking about like resourcing, both like money and people. So could you give a like rough estimate so that we would end up to the same ballpark? How much money do I need for a such project? And then the second question that is linked to the first one, what about resources? What kind of team do you need to create when you start selling directly to the clients? So any help with those?
Absolutely. If you have a look on the Woolman services, I think we have a couple of kind of standardized projects. The first one is called the Shopify Start, which is kind of a service where we help you. We don't do all the things for you. We help you to set up the shop. And it's designed as a service that's going to take basically 2 weeks. And before we actually start, we're going to have a list of tasks for you that you need to do in order that we can kind of do our work. Those tasks will include doing a contract with the payment provider. So we just get the payment provider credentials that we can plug into place. We're going to double check from you what kind of taxes, VAT rates we need to use in the shop. What kind of shipping providers do you want to have? Are there going to be DHL? Is it going to be any Finnish postal service or whatever? And that's kind of the basic service. That's going to be little under 4,000 euros. And you're going to have a up and running Shopify shop, and you can have the point of sale system as well. And then we can kind of go on to the next version, which is going to be 4 weeks, somewhere around 10 to 15,000 euros. And we're going to be kind of working on hand on weekly basis with you, kind of with the same setup. But we're going to be a bit more active. We're going to do things for you. And I think the most important part with these two services is that the only thing that we can do for you is the product information. So when we need to have the pictures, when we need to have the selling text, the product descriptions, those need to come from the customer. And well, we can outsource, of course, that kind of work as well, but that's going to be the most kind of time-consuming part in most cases. And regarding the resources, if you're a person who can hustle and multitask and handle the stress, you can do this kind of project yourself. But if you're running the brick and mortar store from 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, and during that time, if your normal days is something that you can kind of concentrate on the webshop part, on the online store part, then in my opinion, it would be a good idea that you have somebody running the shop as a trainee or another employee like half a day. So you would then have like half of your work day that you could focus on setting up the Shopify shop. I don't think that it would require kind of tons of resources, because we're not talking about integrations. We're not talking about any kind of custom features or design customizations on these kind of smaller scale projects. So you don't need to have a team of personnel in the projects. I would say that with this kind of long monologue that I'm having, I would say absolutely that's like 1 or 2 persons will be enough if you can resource and kind of manage your time consuming well on your end.
Good, excellent. And what if we then like move a bit on, if we talk about like, I don't know, bigger brands, corporate e-commerce. I have myself like background there. When
Absolutely.
Back in the days, still like few years ago, you were talking about like investing in new platforms, starting your business from scratch with Hybris or complicated Magento solutions that would take like 2 to 5 million euros a year. So what can like Shopify Plus then probably bring to the table? Can you do projects cheaper than that? Are they more flexible, agile in any way?
We can. And in most cases where I've been running the conversations with our bigger customers, like corporation level customers, it has been our recommendation that if they have been a retail only business, and this is going to be their first attempt in the online version, it's making all the sense in the most cases that the online setup is going to be kind of external from the current operating systems that they have. So if they have a SAP as an ERP system, if they have kind of any legacy systems in the back end, most of the customers have agreed that it's a great idea that the first attempt in their online business is it's going to be external. So we're going to have Shopify. We might even use a 3PL warehousing and shipping partner. That's not needed necessarily, but it's an option. So you could actually think it as a kind of a new business division that we just kind of launch and pilot. And in those kind of cases, we're going to still get exactly the same benefits that we always have from Shopify. The time to market, it's going to be weeks. It's not going to be 6 months or a year or 18 months. It's going to be weeks. We can even do the same 4 weeks if we don't need to do customized design or customized branding. But usually in these kind of bigger cases, there are some small customization at least. So the time frame is usually like 6 to 8 weeks, but only 6 to 8 weeks. It's just kind of you need to be able to do the decision, and then in these cases the resources and the need to have the resources, they are a bit bigger because they might be branding and marketing people involved. When they go into the online business, they already probably have a marketing plan in their heads, which is meaning that they want to use Klaviyo, they want to use performance marketing in the new shop. So we kind of need to involve more people, and then they need to have a bigger team in that end. So usually we end up working with like 3 to 5 different persons within the project.
Right. Excellent news. And then like maybe from my perspective, pointing out also the fact that what this COVID situation has brought us. Before we ended up to many discussions that if I'm a brand owner, am I allowed to sell online? What if I'm like competing against my resellers or some partners or whatever? And now the question that is like addressed to many brand owners is that where is your online presence? Why aren't you there? So that went like up and round. So we see that as a very positive that all modern brands should be online, and you should be able to purchase them like directly from their own web shop as well. And that's not anymore seen such as like anymore as a condition. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you don't have to be a genius that you come up with the new business idea that you can do with your online business, even if you are a brand, and in a way that it's not going to insult or get your retailers angry or your wholesale partners. So you can do bundles. You can do a outlet shop that is selling discontinued items that you don't sell to retailers anymore. You can do subscription-based models that you can't possibly do with your retail network. There are so many ways how you can create kind of a whole new business in your new online environment without losing any business from the retail network. And what we've absolutely seen is the fact that kind of the last fortresses that have been kind of holding the flag of the retail only theme high, they are kind of now reconsidering, and then many of those companies have switched their minds that this COVID-19 has wakened them up, and they know that they have to be online. Maybe they're not sure what the business will be, but if we have a look on Pepsi company, they launched 2 new direct-to-consumer shops in April or March, was it? So
Yep.
even the biggest companies in the world that have been doing wholesale only within their retail space are now going into the online sector as well. And that should be a sign to all the companies.
Definitely, it's a huge change, and just like willing to point out the fact that, as you mentioned, it's pretty flexible to do with Shopify with a good partner who can help you out, who have experienced similar cases. And then if you have like resources, you should then spend some money to build a team, to hire that e-commerce specialist / manager or director, and to put some money to that further development of the store. And then also very important is like performance marketing and customer acquisition. So if you can then see that, hey, this channel is actually like working, I get some clients in, then you truly need to invest in that channel. So willing to sort of like break that myth that e-commerce isn't an automation. There are automated parts, but you need to invest both kind of like resources, from money to people, and you need to really like pay attention to that, just as if you would invest in a brick-and-mortar store. So it's just digital, but it works in a different way, and it also that requires resources. And now with Shopify, you're able to get like flexible solutions, so that you will then have more time to invest into the data and understand that where should you actually invest to gain more from the business.
Exactly, and that's really well said. I would kind of compare when you're building as a brand owner, when you're going to do your first online store, I would describe it to be like your flagship store. So think, what do you do when you're going to be building your new flagship store somewhere in the retail space? You're going to find a nice location, then you're going to do the nice decoration in the shop, you're going to build a catalog or the inventory of products, you're going to hire personnel to do the stuff in the shop to make sure that the customer service is working, and then most importantly, you're going to do everything you can to spread the word that you have a new flagship store there, which basically is marketing. So you need to do all of these same things with your first online store. And with Shopify, most of these things are easy, but then when it opens, that's only kind of 1/3 of the thing. That's when the hard work starts, and like you mentioned, the customer acquisition part being absolutely the most important thing that you need to do with the new shop.
Well said. Thank you, Teemu, for your time. See you next week with episode 12.
See ya.
Bye-bye.